Welcome to today's episode of the Cross Labs podcast, On My Mind.
So there was the other day, we were talking with some people from a university in Colombia, and they were talking about like the Ministry of Information over there was trying to do initial survey to do like AI regulations in Colombia as well. And they were talking about the typical conversation that we all grasp, like how do we regulate the copyrights and all that stuff. But then I was thinking, what people normally say, what is AI? Is it's ChatGPT, it's Stable Diffusion, it's this and that. But then like we have done stuff with AI for much longer and much more damaging than someone losing their job. How come that we have this important topic about, let's regulate AI now that it can make chat? But when elections worldwide were tampered by AI in Cambridge Analytica or whatever, that was the same thing.
People were saying that.
People were saying, let's regulate AI development and let's stop for 6 months development.
Well, yeah. So it's people were saying it, just not the people who have the money to, make it happen.
It didn't happen to be like 3 of the 10 richest people in the world or something. I don't know.
Yeah, or like people were saying that the thing that really got the regulation going was because of the image models, because that was putting economic pressure on artists. And not just artists, but when you start to realize that these things could also maybe do music, and the music industry in the US is extremely protective.
Which is not a problem with election tampering.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I feel really sad because, I don't know, Bruno Mars is going to get his revenue diminished. But if we have some random model that was made in secret in a military base that can autonomously trigger a weapon to kill a group of people, and they will just never exist anymore, like it's not their livelihood, it's their whole families and life and so on. How is it that we're not talking about regulation on those ones?
People absolutely were. There was a big thing where a lot of AI scientists signed a petition to basically forbid automated weapon development. But it was a bunch of scientists saying, we don't think it's a good idea to do this, so it immediately got ignored. But, the EU did kind of start to poke at this stuff with privacy laws. That was the sort of first kind of anti-AI major legislation. And it wasn't put as anti-AI or AI regulation legislation, but in practice it does regulate AI because the thing that AI depends on is data. And if you have laws that say that like anyone can ask for their data to be removed after the fact, it essentially makes it impossible to train very large models that are expensive to train, because someone might say, remove my data, and then you have to retrain it from scratch, because you can't take a trained model and unbreak those eggs. You have to throw it out and retrain if you really want to follow that law. I guess I would say that the thing that I really believe about AI is that all of the damage it causes, it's damage caused by people. It's not something specific to AI technology. It's just that AI is a lever, so people can use it to exert more power than they might otherwise do, or do things cheaper than they might otherwise do, but it's still people doing things. The place where it's really damaging is when people are able to hide their culpability behind the fact that they used AI. So they say, I didn't make this decision, the AI made the decision, and that was made by someone else, and we don't know how it works, but we have to trust them. You go talk to them or something like that, right? If you can do that, that's where the damage happens, not the specifics of the technology. So when AI is used on a drone to kill someone, really just the commander of that military unit chose to kill someone. They chose to kill that person in a very convoluted way. The question shouldn't be, should they not be allowed to use AI to kill someone? The question should be, are they allowed to kill that person?
I thought actually that autonomous killer robots, aren't they prohibited by some kind of convention?
I think the example that Oneris is using got transformed, because I remember talking about something related to this before. But the specific thing there was that the AI was used for target selection, but there was still actually a human who pushed the button to shoot.
Drones that autonomously attack humans, they do exist. Well, actually, let me Google it.
Yeah, make sure of this, because...
Yeah, NPR, autonomous drone strike in Libya. And it's a quadcopter that fly themselves to a specific location, pick their own target, and kill without the assistance of a remote human operator. This is the thing that we should stop for like 6 decades before.
So the point is, like, there's a legal analysis of those drones. And the point being that, according to military law, the commander who deployed that weapon is responsible for anyone it kills. If it breaks military law in killing the wrong person, then they are accountable under current law without needing any new AI regulation or anything like that for having killed an innocent person illegally. And they can go up and for war crimes.
But my point is that life shouldn't be lost in the first place. Like, it doesn't matter that someone's going to pay a punishment for that. That person's still
Well, what
dead.
I'm saying is, I mean, you can say that about any act of war. You know, any commander could basically say to their soldiers, oh, go kill everyone in that village, even if they're civilians, and the soldiers should disobey that order, but it happens. And yeah, it shouldn't happen. The way that we make it not happen is that we hold people accountable for doing that in very severe, or ideally in very severe ways, or other people hold them accountable for doing that, so that it's quite clear that if you do that, you're going to get executed or jailed for life or other things like that, so that people don't say, you know what, we're going to use the autonomous weapon, unless they have some way of actually taking responsibility for its actions, like using it in an area that has already been evacuated and things like that. So I think that's the key thing. It's not like this is a new, you know, it makes it easier for people to make that error or to take that illegal action. But fundamentally, the thing to do is to actually very strongly hold people accountable for every mistake that is made by any of those systems, so that it becomes it becomes suicide, like life suicide, not career suicide, to actually use them. Right? It should be at the level where everyone's like, no, I'm not actually going to use an autonomous drone as part of this thing, because that makes me personally accountable in a way that, like, my role in this military will not protect me from. So saying, like, let's stop AI drone, you know, killings is all well and good, but the way that you're going to stop them is by making a law that puts someone in jail when they do that, and which is not any different than the current state. So
you're absolutely right in that logic, but I think the problem there is that accountability part.
So would this mean we should try to make the culpability traceable? Like when you make a killer robot, it has to kind of record who sent it or something, so that you can always find out who was the person who basically is responsible for whoever this machine kills.
Well, I mean, I think at the end of the day, the answer is going to be that you shouldn't be using killer robots either way. And it's just a difference of, do you do that, like Luke is kind of saying in the chat, like at what level do you try to make that stick? You know, I mean, the ideal case would be that it is seen as such that if a country's military causes a civilian non-combatant death, someone in that military goes to jail for murder. Looking at Russia and Ukraine, good luck, right? Like, that's the problem. That the people enforcing the law are the ones who are breaking it, so it's no good.
That's it for this week's episode of the Cross Labs podcast, On My Mind. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you'll be the first to know when the next episode is out. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.